This guy played Genshin Impact for 700 hours. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's a lot.
I beat Genshin Impact. A bold statement? Maybe. A very subjective statement? Definitely. But I did it. A bit over 4 months ago, I started playing Genshin Impact for the first time. And looking back at my first time experience, it is funny to see what points I was focusing on. Like, remember when I was wondering if the reason why the healing statues have a limit is because it is going to be a time gate later? Well, now I'm just wondering, why is it there? So yeah, 4 months later, I can say that after crawling through this very confusing hole, I came out on the other side with all the major story quests complete, a few reputations maxed out, quite a few 5-star characters on my account while staying free to play, and with the final floor of the Spiral Abyss cleared. And that's all while amassing 700 hours.
But how much did you spend, though? How much money did you spend?
Paid. Throughout this journey, every time I
money?
talked about Genshin, people mentioned that I am
Free to play? What the fuck is wrong with him? What an idiot! Oh my god.
overly positive about everything. But that's because it was all a setup for this moment.
Okay.
Because today we are not gonna talk about the amazing combat or the
Oh,
great
that's fucking
events.
badass.
We are going to talk about the garbage. And that goes for both the gameplay and the story. So strap up and get ready, because it's not often you can see me mad or disappointed. But today is gonna be one of those days.
Okay.
Just like it goes for every new Genshin player, my journey started with the story. By all means, the story is the true raw experience here. If Genshin does anything at all, it is telling stories for their characters. And that's for the better, or much, much worse. You
Is she
see,
a
previously you might have heard me saying that Genshin has some of the best stories told in gaming. Which is a statement I do believe is true. To give you
Wow.
some examples without any major spoilers, Raiden had some really
She
strong...
pulls a sword out of her boobs? Oh, wow.
points. Chasm has an excellent story with even better side quests, and Sumeru has some incredible hits, especially Nahida's quest, which is simply referred to as the Loop. That one was amazing. But while these big moments in the story are amazing, the way you get there can be painful. The best example is Inazuma. And here, just know that I am going to spoil the very beginning, which, to be honest, as you'll see, is gonna be totally fine. When you arrive in this beautiful region,
Okay.
in order to get to the great parts of the story, you have to run around and get a pass that lets you freely walk around.
All
To
right.
get it, you first have to run around and help people deal with taxes for 3 hours. You then
That sounds too much like real life.
have to learn about the conflict between the local houses for the next 2 hours.
Even
Then
more
things
like
get
real life,
a little
yeah.
bit more
The two
interesting
parties.
as you learn about who Raiden is, before it gets to the part where you set up fireworks for 4 hours. Honestly, I know there were more chores in between these points, but my brain blocked out the memories because it's trying to protect me. What I know as a fact is that there was a total of 10 hours of setup before you got to the great part of the story of the region, which
I think that a lot of games do this, and I'm not really sure if it's necessary. Do you really need that much setup? I feel like, okay, so for some things, that amount of setup is really important. Like, think of Season 1 and 2 Game of Thrones, think of A Realm Reborn. But for other things, the amount of setup is not important. Think of, like, Lost Ark. Some of the stories, dude, you don't need to go through and tell all these stories. It just takes too long. A Realm Reborn's a good example. Well, and yeah, they cut a lot of stuff out of that.
wouldn't be an issue if the payoff was godly. But truth be told, specifically in Inazuma, the finale was simply really good. But there is no way this can justify 4 hours of setting up fireworks. I know they were important because they were used to distract the guards, but 4 hours? And
Yeah,
that's not
it
even
seems
counting the
like a bit
storyline
much.
of the entire Commission War. A massive war that is supposed to shape the future of this region.
We'll just shoot 'em.
But due to technical limitations, the game only shows us a 5v5 battle. So yes, sometimes the game can flop really heavily on the immersion, but that's not the point for now.
Okay, sure.
The point is, sometimes the story can drag a lot, and that's for two reasons.
Why is that?
First of all, Genshin relies on their gacha system, which means one thing. They have to promote their characters, which is how a lot of the time you end up with a lot of characters who are forced into a story. Not because they would necessarily enhance the story experience,
But because it would make sense to get them. Now, I think this is actually a really good point that he's making here, is that the stories are driven by the monetization model. I think this is very accurate.
because it is a 5-star character. They have to give them as much spotlight as possible.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Yoimiya is the perfect example here. Honestly, she is such a great character, but her story should have been her own character quest. There was no reason to force her into the Archon quest so brutally. And I do believe that might have soured the character for some people, which later got saved because she's a really good DPS. Thankfully, later, Hoyoverse realized that forcing characters into the story no matter what is not a great idea. And so for some of the new characters, instead of just forcing them into the main story, it seems like they either put them into events, which usually get their own stories, or for the 4 stars they give them the hangout quests. But then there is the
I think that's actually a really good way of doing it. That's much better than before, it seems. Yeah, it seems much better.
other issue
I
that
don't know,
Genshin
I don't know,
has
I'm
when
just
it comes to
guessing.
stories, and it's still a really big one. It is an issue that stayed in the game till this day. And that's the fact that no matter what conversation you are in, be it a big Archon quest or a lead up to what's happening in a region, in the vast majority of cases, they say a lot. And yet they say so little. I can't be the only one who noticed this, right? There are times when the dialogue just drags, which really sucks because this also happens during the big storyline.
This happens in Honkai Star Rail too. There's a lot of unnecessary dialogue.
Lines which I really liked. Like, no matter what plot twist happens or what setup happens, everything has to be explained. Exposition is like 80% of the dialogue. What's crazy is that you can easily cut the dialogue in half. The story would stay, and in many cases, it might even be better, because it would actually help with the pacing. In movies and entertainment media in general, there is a golden saying that separates good and bad
Show, don't tell.
storytelling. Show, don't tell.
Pre-watched.
A rule that tells the writers to show people what's going on and let them realize what's happening. By doing so, your viewer...
Yeah, I think that that's definitely a good thing, but you've got to keep in mind Genshin Impact is made for like kids. So like you can't go with some like Dark Souls storytelling shit because people are just not going to know what the hell is going on. They're not going to get it. I mean, that's the truth.
engage
Kids
with
aren't
the story
dumb.
from
Yeah,
the
they are, bro. Like, I remember I couldn't do my Warrior Axe questline because I threw away the list of stuff I needed. So I never knew how to get the Whirlwind Axe. Because I threw the note away. It was a waste of space in my inventory. I said, fuck that. The kids are stupid as fuck. That's why they can't vote.
Side of the beholder. In Genshin, this immediately gets thrown out the window when Paimon appears on screen. And she explains every single tiny detail you might have missed with very long and complicated sentences.
Oh,
like,
God.
yeah, Paimon actually does have some great scenes in the story. But this is not one of her stronger sides. And in case Paimon is not available, my favorite case of telling, not showing, is when the screen goes black and there is a text that pops up to tell you what's happening like it's a silent movie from the 1920s.
They have this in Honkai Star Rail too.
What's strange is that it is obvious that the writers on
Okay, let's explain the real reason why that happens. Most of the cases in why that happens is for them to do a phase change on screen without you seeing it. To reorient or remove and add certain NPCs into the story. That's the real reason why it goes black. And that's the same reason why in Final Fantasy the screen will go all white or all black. It's so they can change the scenery without the player seeing it.
Hoyovers are good. They are using proper setups and payoffs. So, are they doing this just to give the game longer content? Well, unfortunately, things get a bit worse. Because you see, while the main story of Genshin literally has multiple days of raw, voice-acted conversations, it gets quite bad when you realize that all the side quests are not voice-acted. But they still have the...
Yeah, Honkai Star Rail does a better job with this because the important side quests are voice-acted and the ones that aren't important aren't voice-acted. So, like, the ones with female characters are voice-acted and the ones with the male characters are not. Which I think is pretty fair.
Same kind of long conversations. So should you venture outside of the boundaries of the main story, get ready to read. A lot. And I mean a lot. For many of you, this...
I think this problem is much more evident as a streamer than it is as a player. Because having to stream reading all of that stuff, like I remember whenever I would do Final Fantasy, the whole MSQ, oh my god, it was brutal. Dude, my throat would hurt at the end of it, right? Because it's like I would have to read out everything. And it's like as a player, I'm just sitting back on my chair, I'm like, bro, just read that fucking, okay, yeah. So there's like this war, oh fuck, okay. Yeah, well, I don't care about this, okay. And that's it.
Absolutely kills the pace, likely making you skip the dialogue and then look for videos on YouTube to tell you what happened. Or perhaps
that's probably true.
You don't care at all and you do nothing. Yeah. Leaving the poor cabbages sad because their history is quite cool. But you see, when it comes to the storytelling, there is even more things that we can mention. Such as events. In my opinion, the FOMO is not as bad here. At least that's because the pros outweigh the cons. With all the events that come and go, the world actually feels alive. It simply wouldn't feel the same without them. But it's such garbage that actually important lore is locked behind these events. If it was just a side story, for example, like what happened during the lunar celebrations, then sure, you can have...
Yeah, that's what WoW does, and that's what Lost Ark does.
Most of the story be the day-to-day casual jobs of your characters, while also having some important lore in the middle of it. I'm totally fine with that. But when the event itself is a core part of setting up the world, that's absolute garbage. For example...
how do I feel about that? I think that, like, yeah, in a way, there is, like, the value in, like, oh, you had to be there to experience it. You know, moments where, like, it creates FOMO for people to want to play the game. But I don't know.
Example, I have no idea who this guy is. I went through all the stories and then he just randomly appeared in the middle of an event and I'm supposed to know him? In my chat, people kept telling me that he's actually gonna spoil a really important part of the story. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I just wanna play the game. Not to mention that even after I finished the event where he appeared, because I had no context for his story, if he spoiled anything, well, I missed it. So yeah, events are great, the way they tell stories is awesome. But please don't shove important lore into them. I missed two...
I probably think he's right about this more than not being right, but I can see why they do it.
Years worth of events, and apparently some of that story was quite important. But you know what? Enough talking about the storytelling, let's move on. As I continued on my adventure through the story, the game finally introduced the Spiral Abyss to me. This is where I realized...
It's time to spend money.
Yes, this is the end game. And so I set it up to be my goal to beat the final floor of the Spiral Abyss. At which point, my viewers were like, yeah, good luck with that. Unless you're a whale, see you in 3 years. So... being the insane person I am, to prove them that I don't have to pull for anything, I decided to do it as a free-to-play player. Which made me realize I had some planning to do. You see, it is true.
See, like, I don't understand that. I really don't. Because in games like this, like, that's part of it is spending the money. You know, like, if I want to go and show off to people, I would play like a skill-based game. Like a Elden Ring or Valorant or something like that. But like, this is my mindset with any game that has pay to win in it. No accomplishment matters. Nothing matters. It's all just for fun.
That at the beginning I got a bit lucky. My first ever pull gave me the look, whose gameplay I liked very much, so I decided to carry him with me to the end of the challenge. But the first banner that popped up when I was playing was for Hu Tao and Yelan, who are...
Oh, that one must have made a lot of money.
Allegedly, one of the best pyro carries in the game, and one of the best Hydro DPS supports.
It did? Yeah, I bet.
And I got them both within like 20 pulls of each other. And after them, I also got Bennett and the Water Boy, which gave me a pretty good meta comp. So at that point, even though I was a free-to-play player, my account certainly didn't look like it. Which made me realize my free-to-play challenge is kinda stupid. Because what's the difference?
Yeah, so you might as well just spend $1,000. Like, I mean, you might as well. I mean, look, at this point, yeah, you might as well just spend like $2,000 or $3,000 or, you know, like $500 a week.
Failing and just getting lucky.
Yeah.
The difference is none, to be exact.
10,
but I still
yeah.
had to plan around my pulls. Because the Spiral Abyss requires 2 full teams to beat it. And even though my first team was really stacked, my second team was just random garbage. So if there was something I wanted to pull for, it would have to be for the second team. And yes, at that point I also realized that the gacha system is quite garbage. But I kinda accepted it for what it is, so at the end of the day, I'm kinda indifferent. It's like going into the liquor store and complaining that they have booze. Regardless...
Yeah, it's like if you go into one of these games, you have to understand that it's pay-to-win garbage. You have to know that going into it. It's like, yeah, you go in and it's like, if you're watching, you go in and you decide you want to watch Saw 5. And you're upset and traumatized about it because it showed a lot of gore. Well, what the fuck did you expect?
It didn't take long and I rounded up my second team, with my main carry there being Hu Tao. And even though this meant that I had 2 vape teams, I was happy. Until I hopped into the early floors to test out the team.
Okay, let's see
and I was forced to see the truth. My eyes were forced open. Hu Tao sucks. It is true that she is really powerful and that she is one of the best DPSs.
I just thought she was cute. I thought that's why people liked her. I didn't know there was any... I didn't... Really? Okay.
But my god, her gameplay sucks! To have optimal DPS, you have to charge attack and jump in the middle of the animation to interrupt it. Over and over and over. That's what you do the whole fight. People kept telling me, you know, it is what it is. To which I say...
I think he's doing it wrong. Because if that's the meta, wouldn't you want to knock them together?
Nay! That is not fun! I don't want to cancel animation my way to hell. And so... I threw Hu Tao into the garbage can and I...
Wow! Waifu deleted. Holy shit! People are going to be really upset about this one.
Binged her indefinitely. Yes, I am aware that I can...
Is this the beginning of Necrit's, his, like, Genshin villain arc? I feel like this could be the video that turns the tide.
Lucky and I got her on my first attempt
Tectone
on the banner.
2.0.
But I don't like the gameplay. And if I don't like it, I'm not playing it. Of course, this decision started a bit of an argument. And this argument made me realize that the Genshin community splits into 2 camps. Those who follow the meta guides and micro-optimize their DPS, and those who actually have free will and they have fun with the tools Genshin gives them. And of course, one of these scams kept telling me that without Hu Tao, there is no way I can do Abyss 12.
I'll be honest, the way that I play games like this is I just look up, I see what the best characters are, and I just play those. Because they're the best. They do the most damage. So I just play the ones that do the most damage. There it is. It's about that simple.
Now again, this entire time I firmly believe that you don't have to pull for anything.
I like how the only fat people in the game are the enemies.
And you can just really play whatever you want. So, I decided to rise a very stupid but glorious middle finger. I went on the internet and searched for Genshin DPS tier lists.
Okay.
Something no mortal should
Wow.
ever do. It was one thing to see Diluc lower on all the tier lists. That way he was perfect for me to play. But I also needed a carry DPS for the second team. Someone quite bad. Even better, someone who was designed to mainly be a support. Which is how my
Bro, like... I'm sorry, but like, what is this name? I mean, like... Bro, it's just like... Okay. It's Chinese. Yeah, I get it, but, you know, it's just... you know.
My Candy Scary Challenge was born. To prove everyone that you should play what you wanna play, and to prove that anything works, I decided to beat the game with her. And just like that,
Okay.
my final two teams were locked in place.
Oh,
But there was
wow.
one more issue. Leveling up the teams and farming artifacts was relatively simple. But I needed every help I could get, so I needed good weapons. My Diluc was using something...
Didn't Tectone spend like $20,000 on a weapon and he lost the 50-50 so many times the developers changed the game? It was Staff of Homa, it was like $25,000. Wow.
usable, but Candice really needed some help. Which meant that for the first time, as a free-to-play player, I had to pull on the weapons banner. Thankfully, there was one that had one of the best deep...
Can they use that sword in the game? Can you see them, like, using that? Because that sword looks pretty cool.
PS claymores in the game, but also a really good DPS spear. Perfect for my 2 carries. So I started pulling. And oh boy, was it painful. Now, I wouldn't say that the weapons banners are a scam, which is what most people say. They work on the same formula as pulling for characters, except instead of getting 5-star characters, you get 5-star weapons.
Isn't that
In fact,
good?
the formulas are a bit more favorable towards the weapons. No, the reason why...
Usually the way every single one of these fucking games work is there's 4 banners. There's the banner for the current character that has a boosted rate, and there's the banner for the current empowering device of the character that has a boosted rate. And then there's the third banner, which is the banner for all of the other characters that has the base rate. And then there's the banner for all of the other weapons that has the base rate. There's 4 of them. And basically every single game that I played like this is the exact same. There's 4. There's only 3 banners. Oh, really? 3? Okay. The weapons aren't separated? Genshin has 3?
Why it sucks is because it is just not satisfying. Getting new weapons is simply not as transformative as getting new characters with entire new gameplay. And unfortunately, things really sucked for me because this was the first time my luck ran out. My main goal was to get a good Claymore for Diluc. So of course, after I kept off my pity, the first weapon I got was...
Well, that's good, right?
painful,
Oh.
sure, But I went out into the world and farmed more gems.
Smart.
And the next stream I returned to pull some more. Only to cap off my pity again. And then...
What'd you get? Ooh! Well, now he's got a 2-star.
So yeah, it got bad.
That's good though,
but
right?
With the pity system, at least this meant that the next weapon that would drop would
It's like level
definitely
2.
be the Claymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, after a lot more farming, I kept off my pity again.
What'd you get?
But I didn't have enough to do my last 2 pulls. And this was on
just spend
stream,
money.
and it was the last day of the banner.
Just spend
so
money.
I was forced into a dilemma. Earlier during my adventure, someone who's insane actually...
See, yep, there it is. Man, you know what you call that? Working as intended.
Gifted my account 500 gems. So what I could do is just go out into the world and farm for 2 hours while giving people really bad stream content. Or I could give people some good content, tap into the gems, farm it off stream later, get the Claymore and continue with the story. So, that's what I did. And just to be fair, after the stream, I farmed the gems and I kept them on my account until the challenge was over. And literally on the next pull, I got my Claymore.
See, that's the Whaler's buff. This is what I was talking about. In Lost Ark, I was trying to create the fake news that if your account was capped out on microtransactions, you had an additional multiplier to honing chances. Like, if you had already spent $400 for the day, it was like, I forgot what the number that I invented was, but it was like, it's just increased. I called it the Whaler's Advantage, or something like that, but apparently nobody bought into it.
So practically, it is all as if I stayed free to play. Technically, however, I spent $2 to give people content. Do I care? No, it's a stupid challenge that gave me too many 5 stars anyway. So yeah, pulling for weapons is garbage, but more importantly, it's just not satisfying. Anyway, to get my team ready, there was one more thing that I have to do. Get artifacts. For the most case, that was easy, or so I thought. You see, yet again, I found a flaw. But this is a flaw that was very unique to me. Normal players will never face this. Up until this point, I never faced backseating before. Every time I played a game on stream before, I was fairly...
Yeah, I had the same thing, but I actually appreciated the backseating because I didn't know what the best stats were.
Confident I knew more than my viewers. In general, statistically, I am above average at most games. But Genshin was my first time experience.
Yeah.
So I was looking for tips from time to time. And holy shit, that was a bad idea.
Oh, no doubt.
I now understand why backseating sucks and why people hate it so much. In my case, it actually started with the story. At the beginning, to a new player, Genshin actually spits out a lot of names. Not only are there just many different characters by default, but you also have 3 enemy factions. The story that was supposed to be spread out over 2 years just falls on you like an avalanche. And there are also multiple villains with different motives. But throughout all of this, even though I was constantly mixing up the factions, and I kept confusing who's on whose side, I still had fun because the story was interesting. I simply enjoyed it. And that was an issue, because I was consuming the story wrong. Apparently, I was ruining my own experience by rushing the story. Even though, you can't rush a story in this game. Unless you skip through dialogue, you actually just consume the story at the pace at which it is presented to you. Like, what do you think I'm supposed to do? Sit down at home and think about what I just witnessed after every quest? For me personally...
I mean, I think that's what people would want to see. And then whenever you do that and you spend too much time on it, people get mad. So they're gonna get mad no matter what.
It wasn't until Sumeru that things really clicked together. But for some people, that was too late and I was a lost cause.
Oh, true.
All while I was having a blast. So yeah, I got backseated on how to consume the story of a video game. But that...
As this guy played Final Fantasy XIV before.
It's not the only kind of backseating that happened to me. Obviously, there were some people who corrected me on how to play when it comes to combat. To a certain degree, it was helpful when people pointed out the basics to me. But later on, some people just shoved facts into my face, which crumbled at the first moment I opened up the internet. And it was proven to me that yet again, on average, I should be trusting my own instincts more. And you know, from time to time, I even like to troll the people who thought I was an absolute idiot.
Is there a good one? Is there a good weapon for her? Or is there anything else that I can get that's better? The catch! What's the catch? Fishing. Can I just go and get it now? How long does that one take? It's long. 2 weeks. Clueless. Where do you buy it? Why 2 weeks? Can I just get it?
Just buy it on the store.
Just not get it?
Yeah, just buy it on the store.
Yeah, I can get it. What? You can just buy it.
Oh, there you go.
You need these too?
Why the fuck would she sell a trident for fish?
Yeah. You can just buy these. What are you on about?
Do.
And so, with my team gathered up and my weapons ready, the day came to prove everyone wrong. I unlocked the final level of the Abyss, and I went in with my scuffed team. On that day, originally I just wanted to stream some stories and maybe try the Abyss for a bit. But instead, I ended up grinding the final floor of the Abyss
Wow.
for 5 hours. After all, this was my own stupid challenge that was preventing me from
Oh
paying.
God.
It was the first time I faced that floor. And I have to say, I had an absolute blast. This was probably the most fun I have had in this game. It was like playing Dark Souls in Genshin. And it was awesome.
Great.
It is true that around the 4-hour mark, I took a break. For 30 seconds, and then I went right back in.
There you go.
And at
There you
the
go.
end,
Never quit.
we faced Nut, a boss that is notorious for stalling time. Something that my low DPS team really didn't like.
Oh,
but
bro.
at the
You
end,
got 15 seconds
I
left.
did it.
He'll get it. He'll get it.
it was
Yeah.
pain. It was suffering. But with my Candy Scary, I beat Spiral
Candy's
Abyss
nuts.
12. With
There it is.
0 stars and 8 seconds left on the timer.
Oh, so yeah, you gotta beat it with all the stars. Yeah, see, he didn't really beat it. If he had beat it with all the stars, then he would have really beat it. This doesn't even really count.
And I was happy
Yeah.
with it. You see, this entire challenge was stupid to begin with. But since all my
spend the
characters
money.
were fully leveled up, I realized that from that point on, the only difference between 0 stars and 9 stars
Money.
are artifacts. That's the only way you can raise your power. And you know what artifacts are about? Luck. I could have prolonged my challenge to at least some stars, but
It's
from
probably not luck. So, like, I never played this game, but, like, here, maybe I'm wrong. I bet there's something that gives artifacts that you can reset the ability that you can get them as often every day with money. No? You can purchase extra runs? Okay, so it's fine. Yeah, you just spend more money. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, well, bro, I was worried for a second. This is the same as Star Rail? No, you're right. No, I'm not. Here, flip a coin once. What is it going to be? Heads? Okay. Flip it 50 times. What's it going to be? Probably a lot of whatever you want it to be. Roll a dice 10 times. That's one thing. Roll a dice 50 times. You're much more likely to get your number. That's just how it is. Limited purchases a day? Okay, but if there's one purchase, you just do it every day.
that point on, it's not that much of a skill issue anymore. It's just the case of having enough DPS to do it on time.
Why are you always right?
And
I
that
don't know.
pure lack of damage comes from the artifacts alone. Speaking of which, my 0-star Abyss achievement became a little bit more impressive when people checked out what artifacts I had, where more than half of them were at level 0, and my Dendro Traveler was in a wheelchair. Maybe that will give you some perspective.
Why didn't he upgrade
But yeah,
him?
what a stupid challenge that was. Don't do what I did. Speaking of artifacts, we are not done yet. Because throughout the entire journey, all of this got capped off with one more thing.
What's that?
The absolute king of triggering me. You see, as someone new, one could argue that I didn't have a lot of time to farm artifacts, which meant that there would be a lot of artifacts that were not perfect, but which were incredible for me given the fact that I was a new player, right? It would not be unthinkable to comprehend that I didn't have 2 years of time to farm artifacts. That when I got an artifact with crit rate and crit damage, it was good enough for me. That it could be one that I could use really well.
Sure.
No, in the eyes of all of you, it was all mid. All artifacts are either perfect or mid.
Yeah, of course. You're either first or you're last. That's just how it is. I remember, that chess piece that I got in Honkai Star Rail? Bro, that chess piece was so legendary, Lucari and Tectone both knew about it. They knew it happened.
Flower with crit rate and 80% roll into crit damage? That's mid. A great pyro artifact? Well, that's not part of the set, so it's mid. There were times when I was really happy that I got a really good artifact, only to look at my chat and see mid. And that just sucked. But not as much as trying to catch butterflies on my phone. That's far worse.
You can play this on your phone? Damn, I had no idea. That's crazy. Nah, the thing is, like, well, I mean, man, I was gonna play this game, but, like, after watching this video, I feel like it sucks. I feel like this game sucks, man. I don't think I want to play it anymore. I think it's bad, guys. I don't know. Like, it does suck. Maybe it does, guys. I don't know. It's just, I'm watching the video, and it's just like, he's saying a bunch of bad stuff about the game, and it's like, ooh, what should I do? How should I feel about it? Seems like it's not good. Uh-oh, makes you want to play it more? Yeah, just so you're, like, addicted to getting yourself mad? Yeah, it's about right. You didn't beat Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact beat you. You don't beat Genshin Impact, you just wait for it. Oh my fucking god. Yep, there you go. Makes you want to go back to Lost Ark. Well, I don't know about that. You played Tower of Fantasy? Come on, bud. Listen, if a game, this is the thing, is I am a sucker for gameplay. If I feel like a game has very good gameplay, I will play it. If I think that it has very bad gameplay, I will not play it. It is literally that simple for me. That's all I care about, is the gameplay. Gameplay is bad, the game is bad. It's that simple. Gameplay is pretty good out of the side of the story. Genshin has it? Well, I don't know. I mean, I watched a 25-minute video about how it's bad, though. So, I don't know.